right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to discuss Daniel Jones and the Giants. They obviously have a game on Sunday night. I really wish they would have flexed out of it, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So the Giants might be in store for another primetime embarrassment. And one of the big topics, well, actually, before we get into that, again, I just want to remind you guys to donate or tip and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. And then, of course, for bonus coverage materials that are not covered by this broadcast, make sure to go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network. So, yeah, the Giants. I really wish they flexed out of this game. I mean, this is going to be a rough game, and especially because Buffalo is coming off of that bad loss against Jacksonville. But, of course, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, Giant fans and football fans in general are going to have to be subjected to the Giants playing on prime time once again and probably getting embarrassed again. Now, the main thing is, should they play Daniel Jones on Sunday? And for me personally, no. I really don't think he should. Now, he did go on the Kay Adams show, his weekly appearance on the Kay Adams show. I think it's like every Tuesday. And I think he said, he's feeling better, and he wants to play. And listen, of course he wants to play. But not even just from a player perspective, but from a human being perspective, I worry about this man's health. I mean, this is his second neck injury. Now, it's not as bad as the one he had a couple years ago, but that's a significant thing. And now you're going up against a team with a very good pass rush, and you have the worst offensive line in football. You got sacked. Well, you technically got sacked 10 times. The other sack again in the Seattle game, Paris Campbell was sacked. So technically, Daniel Jones wasn't sacked 11 times. Because I made a TikTok about that. But technically, Daniel Jones was sacked 10 times. But I really don't think he should play, and it really is just more so you had a neck injury. And guys just can't protect you. And now what if he gets seriously injured? Then the Giants are really screwed because you got Tyrod Taylor. And then you have a Tommy DeVito who, he did some nice things in the preseason. But again, it's the preseason. Now, of course, maybe it's hey, got Brian Dable, Tyrod Taylor, Isaiah Hodgins. That's a revenge game right there for the Giants, for these guys. Previously were with the Bills. But I mean, I just don't think Daniel Jones should play. I really just do not want to see him take a beating from the Bills on Sunday. I just don't want to see it. I don't even want to watch the game, but I know I'm going to. But for the Giants, listen, you invested money in this guy, and it looks like it was the wrong decision. Although, I mean, look at what he's got to deal with too. But then again, I mean, you see, some of the bad turnovers that he's had. I mean, that pick six against Seattle. I mean, I don't even that's just one example you could look at and say, I mean, that's not the offensive line's fault. That's on you. And now you're going up against the Bills. Bad loss after a bad loss Sunday night in Buffalo. I mean it's gonna be a rough game. And this season right now for the Giants is going nowhere. It just isn't. I mean, it just is. It's going nowhere. They're gonna be 1-5, and you still got to deal with the Eagles twice. You got to play the Cowboys one more time. You got to play the Commanders twice. Even though, the Giants do always find a way to beat Washington. I mean, last year they tied with them, but the second game they won. But I don't know. I don't know about this time around. Because this season is spiraling out of control for them. And listen, if you want to give Daniel Jones one more year, I would say let him sit out another week. Let him sit on the sidelines because. But then again, you look at it and you're like, well, then you're going to put Tyrod Taylor out there and he's going to take a beating. I mean, he got the wind knocked out of him in the game against the Dolphins. And he didn't play the whole game. He got put in because Jones got injured. Any human being you put back there is going to get killed. Because that offensive line just cannot protect the quarterback. And I don't know if Andrew Thomas is going to play. I don't know if Saquon Barkley is going to play. I think Barkley should be held out another week. Even though I have him in fantasy and would like to see him out there again, I don't think he should be out there either. Why are you going to put him back? His first game back is going to be against Buffalo? Now, Andrew Thomas, I mean, listen, if he could play, you got to send him out there because, I mean, the offensive line is just a disaster right now. It's a disaster. And it really just, for me as a Giant fan, it really just boggles my mind how it ever since the Super Bowl, and that year, that was like the 32nd ranked offensive line, or 30, whatever it was. And they won the Super Bowl that year. But you know what? What did they do in the postseason? They protected Eli. Ever since that Super Bowl, they have not gotten it right. Pick after pick after pick, they just can't get it right. I mean, you draft Justin Pugh, Weston Richburg, most recently, Eric Flowers, Shane Lemieux. I mean, over and over and over again, they just draft offensive linemen and nobody other than Andrew Thomas pans out. Now, John Michael Schmitz, I want to make sure I didn't stutter when I said that. He's still a rookie, all right. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But Evan Neal, he's looked like a disaster. After he had his comments, regarding the fan base. I mean, it's just, and he's not playing well. I mean, it's the same story, different year. And I don't know how it's going to get better. I really don't. Now, I'm not going to say we got to fire Dable and Joe Shane. I just think there still needs to be more roster construction with this team. This team is not good. There's a lack of talent on this team. And it's not going to... Listen, they were way ahead of schedule last year, but now they are behind schedule with how this year is going. I mean, how many general managers, how many head coaches are they going to go through? I mean, they're on their way to having an even worse season than they did a couple years ago. And there's been a lot of bad years. 2017 was bad. 2021 was bad. I mean, yeah, you had, 7-9 finishes, 6-10. But those years were really bad. Last year, it looked like, hey, maybe this team is ahead of schedule. But it looks like they played way over their heads. It really does. It really does. Because they are just not competitive against any of these teams. I mean, now they're playing against teams that are like Super Bowl contenders, the 49ers, the Dolphins. And they're really not competitive. I mean, they got 3 turnovers against the Dolphins. They won the turnover battle, and they still lost by 2 scores. And they didn't score an offensive touchdown against the Dolphins. They got lucky that Tua gave them the football, and they threw an interception, and they ran it back 102 yards. And playoff contenders in general. I mean, Seattle, obviously one play kind of changed the whole complexion of the game because it could have been a one-score game, but it ended up not being that. Cowboys, not competitive. I mean, their only win is against the Cardinals, and they were getting blown out, and they came back. And the Cardinals are going to be one of the worst teams in football record-wise by the end of the year. So now you're playing the Bills. Another. Well, they're more of a Super Bowl contender than just a playoff contender. But I mean, what do you expect to do in that game? With that pass rush, forget it. I would sit Daniel Jones. I really would. I really would because he's going to get destroyed. Any quarterback that's back there is going to get destroyed. You know what? They should just do direct snaps the whole game. And just and because I mean, whoever's back there is going to get killed. And it's just crazy how we're going backwards. We're not progressing. They're not progressing. This offensive line, I mean, I really just don't understand. 3 general managers, 4 head coaches, and they still can't get that line right. They still can't. Jerry Reese to Gettleman to now Joe Shane, and it's still a disaster. I mean, it's just... I mean, I don't know what else to say. Obviously, we're going to have our pick segment on Friday. So you know where I'm leaning when it comes to this game. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to pick against the Giants. And listen, I hope the Giants somehow pull it off and they win. They prove me wrong, and maybe they go on this miraculous run. It's not happening. I don't see it. I really don't. They also just don't have the players. But again, also falls on roster construction too. Now, I'm not going to put all the blame on Joe Shane because he inherited a very bad roster. But listen, he drafted Evan Neal. What is he doing? It's been awful. He's doing nothing. So, you know, they got to figure stuff out. I saw something that said like La'el Collins, he went for a visit with the Giants, and also he's visiting with the Jets. I mean, the Jets kind of need help as well with Vera Tucker being out for the year, but I mean, at least the Jets' offensive line is, you know, competent somewhat. Giants, again, I said it yesterday, listening to the radio, you know, the host was like, they got backups playing for guys who stink. And it's like, yeah, they do. It's terrible. It really is terrible. What's going on right now? Bottom line is this: Daniel Jones should not play on Sunday. He just shouldn't. Let this guy get help. Let this guy rest for 1 week. Let the neck heal up. Don't let him go out there again. And the other thing, too, is, why do they take so long to pull some of these guys around the league? If you're getting blown out, take your guys out. Why are you doing this? I mean, it's week 1, 40-0, and he's still playing. Why? Why? Take him out. If it's 10-0 against the Bills on Sunday, I would take him out. I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, that's so let me know what you guys think about that. Should Daniel Jones play on Sunday? I mean, I think most people would say no. I think he shouldn't, but we'll see. So yeah, that's the third part of the show. So when we come back, we're gonna look at the stat leaders currently, and that'll be it to conclude the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.